Hello, my name is Emily and welcome to another Brookfield Zoo Facebook Live. Today we are going to be releasing our American white pelicans back into their habitat on Formal Pool. During the winter, when it gets too cold that the water can't remain open from ice, we have to move them inside to their winter holding. And luckily this year they didn't have to be in their winter area too long because the weather turned beautiful again, as you see. And since it's going to stay pretty warm, they can go back into their habitat since the water will be open. It's not the temperatures that really bother them, it's the fact that they need an open water source in order to be safe from any predators since they are outside. All of our pelicans were hatched in the wild, but due to injuries that they sustained in the wild, they are not able to fly, which is the reason that they live here on our Formal Pool. We currently have 4 American white pelicans, 2 males and 2 females. There they go. They're very happy to be back outside.
Taking their sweet time there.
Pelicans are primarily fish eaters. I don't know what she is finding right now, but something that is delicious. I doubt it is any fish.
Do they get along with the wild ducks and geese that come into the pond here, or the Formal Pool?
They do. They mostly ignore each other, but sometimes we see if anyone gets too close to the other, the pelicans will kind of show them who's boss.
So what kinds of things do they, like what kinds of fish do they eat?
Here at the zoo we feed them a variety of fish, different types called capelin, marine smelt. They get herring, which are actually pretty large fish. They can swallow pretty big sized fish. In the wild they would be eating pretty much anything they can catch, anything they can fit in their mouth. They catch their fish by scooping up big pouchfuls of water and hopefully fish with it. Then the water kind of drains out and they swallow the fish down. So they're not swallowing all that water at the same time. It's just their pouch helps them to catch the fish.
How big does that pouch get?
How big does it get? Like how big can it stretch?
Yeah, like how much can it stretch?
Oh Lord, that's a great question. I mean, I've seen it stretch pretty big. I mean, they can fill it up with water, but then it kind of all comes out the sides. These guys do communally fish, so they, in the wild, will kind of gather in a circle and almost kind of corral fish together, and then they will all feed at the same time.
So how come these particular pelicans are here at Brookfield Zoo?
Like I said before, these pelicans were all hatched in the wild. However, they did sustain injuries to their wings some way or another. So were unable to fly. So they were rescued from the wild when they were noticed by people in the area where they're from, which was down in the Gulf Coast. A couple of them actually were rescued from the area where the Deepwater Horizon oil spill happened. They were not caught in the oil spill, but they were unable to leave the area due to their wing injuries. So they were rescued from the area and eventually ended up here.
So how old are they?
We have no idea because they were all rescued when they were adults.
Gotcha.
So we do not know how old they are.
How long can these pelicans live?
They can probably live into their late teens, 20s in the wild. A lot of times lifespan's extended in captivity since they don't have to worry too much about finding food or too many predators, things like that.
So the oil spill was quite a while ago, so they're, well, not quite a while ago, but they're getting up there in age then, huh? Maybe,
yeah,
think?
probably. I mean, I'm trying to remember. I think it was roughly almost 10 years ago when we got our first ones because I was just starting here.
So we saw some of the animal care staff coming out with them under their arms. Are the pelicans handled often or just really to move them from one area to the other?
Yes. So no, they are not handled often. Just when we are moving them or if anyone needs a checkup by the veterinarians. So we do try to do exams on them, a wellness exam at least twice a year just to make sure there is nothing going on with them. So they don't necessarily want to be picked up, but they're pretty calm and used to it, and they know we are just going to release them back out onto the pond when we're done.
What is the territory of white pelicans?
Territory of white pelicans, they are migratory, so they spend most of the winters down south, the Gulf Coast, Florida, places like that, and then they migrate all the way north to the Plain States and Canada and the Columbia River Basin for their breeding. Some populations do stay places year-round. We have some white pelicans that you can see at Starved Rock on the Illinois River over there that stay year-round because the water stays open and they have plentiful fish. So, like I said, it's not the temperature that really bothers them. It's the fact that if they don't have open water to catch fish and to escape predators, that's what the danger is.
Oh yeah, that's really interesting.
So we have over here, we're gonna do a quick wellness exam on this bird here. Blythe is going to look in her beak and her mouth, just make sure everything looks good, like she has no injuries. We look at her eyes. She's not so happy about it. It is. And we just check her all over. We'll look at the bottoms of her feet, make sure there's no injuries, anything like that. We make sure everybody has their identification bands on so we can tell them apart. We feel their body condition just to make sure that they are eating enough and that their muscle tone is good. So animals in general are very good at hiding any illnesses. So she was also just weighed before she was brought out. So she looks good. Clean bill of health. We'll let her go with her friends.
And how much do these pelicans generally weigh?
So the males are generally bigger than the females. The males can weigh up usually about 22 pounds. The females weigh a little bit less than that, so probably in the upper teens. Vanessa's gonna put her down. We put her down feet first and then we let her go, and there we go.
So
she's happy to be back.
The penguins have bands on their legs to tell them apart, and they're on different legs because of male female pairs, things like that. What about the pelicans?
The pelicans are just color banded with two colors of the same color on each leg, and we don't have them separated with male female just because these guys are pretty distinctive. We can tell who is male, who is female just by their size. You may notice that bump on their beak. They all develop that. It happens around breeding season. Scientists aren't exactly sure what it is for. They believe it, since both males and females develop it, is probably not a breeding display like a male would have, like a male peacock has a breeding display to attract females. Their theory is that when they're nesting, they nest in close proximity to each other, so there's squabbles that break out, and they kind of will focus on just biting at each other's breeding bump instead of at each other's head or face. But that is just a theory.
All right, and there's number 4.
There we go. The geese are the geese have lost their winter home now.
Can you talk a little bit about inverting the pouch?
I'm sorry?
Inverting the pouch? No?
I'm not sure what that is talking
All right.
about.
How many offspring do they have at one time?
They generally lay 1 to 2 eggs at a time. We have not had any breeding going on here, but it's possible.
How big would the egg be if they did lay an egg? Like a goose size?
It's probably about a little larger than a goose egg.
Okay. Do they have names?
No, our pelicans do not have names. We kind of refer to them by their leg band color. So we have blue, green, pink, and yellow.
All right. Which is your favorite one?
That is a question that no keeper can answer. I do not have a favorite one.
So do they stay out here? I know you said they're out here year round. If we had a mild winter, they would, or they're not out here year round. They could be out here year round. Okay, sorry. I totally messed up my words there.
That's okay.
I got a little distracted.
Yes, they could be out here year round. If we can keep the pool free of ice, most of it free of ice, then they could stay out here year round.
Okay.
It's just when we get ice on both sides, or if we can't keep enough of it open that we can get, to the shore to feed them, that's when we need to bring them inside. Their platform that's floating out there has heating pads on it to help them warm themselves up if the temperatures get too low. But usually what happens is we just can't. It gets too cold. We can't keep the ice, and then that is dangerous to them because if they can't get out to the water, they possibly could get be susceptible to predators since we are outside and near woods where there's coyotes and foxes, things like that.
Yeah. Some of them are kind of carrying their wings funny. Is that due to their injuries?
Exactly, yes. So if the wings that don't fold nicely to their side are usually the ones that have the injury.
Okay.
So all four of them have an injury to one wing.
Oh, they're showing them off right now. And how many would typically live together in the wild?
They live in pretty big flocks when they are migrating and when they are breeding. Like hundreds of birds will nest together. When they're not breeding, they usually stay in smaller groups, sometimes solitary, but they do sometimes rely on communal fishing to catch their fish, so they'll hang out in groups still.
Do these four always hang out together, or do they ever separate into smaller groups, like two?
They are kind of paired up together, but like I said, we haven't seen any breeding activity going on, but we do see one male and a female kind of hang out together.
And would they mate for life?
No, they do not mate for life. They usually stick together for the breeding season, though.
How much fish are they capable of eating in one sitting? I don't know, one sitting.
One sitting.
One floating.
One floating. They usually will eat pretty much their fill. So when we feed them here, they usually can eat about 1 to 2 pounds of fish per bird per feeding.
Would they dive for fish?
Not really.
Scoop?
So they duck their head under and they invert, their bodies, but they can't actually dive straight down underwater. They're a little too buoyant for that.
Does a flock of pelicans, excuse me, pelicans, not penguins, does a flock of pelicans have a name?
Oh, that's a great question. They do, and I forget what it is.
Well, we can put that in the comments later.
Yes, I will look it up.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Alrighty, well, it looks like our pelicans are really happy to be back out on Formal Pool, and since we have now reopened, please come out to Brookfield Zoo and say hi and see them. Thank you very much for joining us on another Facebook Live, and have a great day, everyone.